Yep, it's me again. They hate me, that's why they give a fuck about me at the same time. As always, JD Miles. The MGTOWs they love to hate, even the ones who claim everybody loves to hate them, loves to hate MGTOW at the same time as always, and I'm back again. This is why they keep us relevant to this day. Before I begin, shout out to the Legion of Men for touching on this issue at hand, in which us MGTOW's been saying this shit for years. And it's about time someone else also touched on it. Shout out to Legion of Men for doing so. Let's get into it, shall we? And by the way, the link to the Legion of Men's full video will be in the comment section. Go check them out. But let's get started.
Happened to men in the wake of the sexual revolution.
The destruction of men in the West is the great story of the last 40 years.
Since men lost their clear identity as breadwinners in the 1960s, they've become increasingly single, alienated, and driven to self-termination. At the same time, educational and economic performance has declined.
There is a problem right now with boys and men, and one of the sources of that problem is we don't have a new script for masculinity. We've torn up the old one, the breadwinning one. We haven't replaced it.
For decades, men have needed a positive message to map a strange new world that's threatened to make them culturally redundant. But our institutions have instead contrived to discourage men from their infancy.
There's a surprising amount of hostility towards boys in this society. To put it bluntly, boys are politically incorrect.
Their play preferences are stymied in elementary school. They're taught nonstop from the time they enter school that the entire masculine enterprise is oppressively patriarchal and evil in its essence, derived as it is from power. Even the American Psychological Association apparently agrees with that now. Their idiot report on so-called toxic masculinity.
Men learn to play passive early, as tales of toxic masculinity thrive at almost every level of academia.
Public school education has become completely permeated by this kind of anti-male propaganda.
Girls experience the education system quite differently. They're trusted and supported, and sold the narrative that men enslaved women as a group throughout history. Consequently, they walk away in their early 20s, armed with the bold and empowering message that their time has finally arrived, and they readily meet the world with agency and drive.
Data points saying that women are more likely to move than men in search of opportunity. More likely to go abroad, more likely to study abroad, more likely to volunteer for AmeriCorps, more likely to...
Here's the term. This is where the term strong, independent, don't need a man comes from. I mean, this was all according to plan. But let's continue.
Go for the Peace Corps, more likely to be the first to buy their own home, less likely to be living at home with their parents in their 20s.
But is it so surprising that men fail to keep pace when the message for them goes something like,
"You're terrible, your ambition is toxic, your assertiveness makes the world a worse place, so be passive, go sit in front of a screen, consume some stuff, entertain some stuff, and be androgynous." That's the message that they send to men.
The pervasiveness of the idea that maleness is toxic and oppressive and in need of suppression has led to the normalization of misandry in the mainstream in recent years.
Hi everybody, it's Janae, and I am here with a video talking about how much I hate men and why I hate men. I think men are disgusting.
We need to kill all men. I am sick of being a baby factory that produces more men.
Now, what has Uncle JD been saying? Oh, it's okay for women to be misandrous. It's okay for women to hate men. But let that be a man talking about, oh, we hate women. We need to kill all women. Oh, now those same people who thinks women hating men is okay be the same ones calling men misogynistic. Oh, you hate women. You hate women. You're misogynistic. You're sexist. But let a woman do it. It's okay. It's all good. You go, girl. Yes, queen. But then they wonder what. There needs to be the same ones wondering why the problems still persist. This is what I call one-sided correctness. And what has Uncle JD been saying about one-sided correctness? Not only does it not solve the problem, but it also causes the problem to escalate even further because they trying to solve half the problem while giving the other side a pass. This is the reason why you got all these retards on here saying that, oh, women being sexist doesn't exist. Oh, women who hate men and being misandrous doesn't exist. But we need to punish these men because they hate women. They're misogynists. Get the fuck out of here. And this is the reason why the problem is not going to go away. But that's just me. Let's continue.
That will just, in the future, subjugate me.
The kill all men hashtag is actually being shown all over TikTok. I think when I first looked at it, it had about 7 million views on the videos that you...
That's right, fellas. The same TikTok that don't want male groups on their platform, yet have no problem at all with these female groups spreading their hatred and misandry towards men. In fact, that same bitch, yes, I only call certain women bitches when they deserve it. Get off my damn case. Those same women that say kill all men, TikTok had no problem with it until they faced the backlash over those videos to the point where they had no choice but to take it down. Now, if they didn't have that much pressure, those videos would still be up to this very day. But let's continue.
Use the hashtag kill all men.
The hashtag men are trash has ignited a social media storm. It has split men and women even beyond the boundaries of social media.
What's sad is this is all propaganda. This is an idea propagated from the powers that be to divide people, and the bozos at the bottom are buying into it. These aren't original thoughts. Somebody somewhere up high thought of a plan how to keep control for their progeny, especially as the generations pass forward. And then this was their idea. I know we're going to destroy the nuclear family. We're going to get women to feel a certain way about men. We're going to get men to feel a certain way about women. Then we're going to teach women they don't need men at all, that they should have single parent households, that they should depend on the government, that all men do is bring problems. And then you scare men off with horrendous court biases, with messages from the mainstream telling you that you're evil, that you're incompetent, that you're a loser, that you're not needed anymore. Have your spaces erased. No more gentlemen's clubs, cigar lounges, no more places where men meet exclusively away from women. No more mentorship, no more Boy Scouts, nothing. Every single male space has been invaded. And you're taught to be submissive to women because they know better.
Exactly. And not only Legion of Men is saying this, but guess what? MGTOW's been saying this shit as well. But of course, those same retards over there on the other side want to sit there and try to say, oh, us MGTOWs hate women, we're misogynistic, but yet they don't want to correct their other side for fear of losing support. And on top of that, the government, society, everybody has a hand in this. But they want to pretend like, but these are the same areas that want to pretend like, oh, they have no involvement in it. They know exactly what the fuck they were doing. But let's continue on.
They're the matriarchs. How many TV shows have we seen where the bumbling, dopey husband and the strong, competent woman dynamic is constantly played out? How many more She-Hulks? How many more horrendous, cringe scenes from like Avengers of all cast girls walking together so empowered do we need to?
And speaking of which, it's also a good thing he brings this up too, because notice that Hollywood and all these films and movies, The creators and the developers are so fucking lazy. They can't even come up with anything original. Everything has to be a remake. Every cast member has to be replaced. And yes, I did see South Park joining the Pandaverse. I mean, it's exactly what Eric Cartman said. Eric Cartman been saying, put a chick in it and make her gay and lame. Then they go around and attack the fans of these franchises, just to go right back around, right back around and cry and bitch about why their movies, their TV show, why their movies ain't breaking box office sales, why their TV shows, why nobody wants to watch their woke virtue signaling TV shows. But y'all get what I'm saying. Let's continue.
Constantly gaslight women into thinking they're the shit. Meanwhile, their statistics on productivity say otherwise. Unless you're pushed through the door, you can't compete with men. Women don't want to be at the office until 11, 12, past midnight. Women don't want to give their lives to their jobs. They don't want to be career slaves. They don't take the same pride in providing for their family the way a man does. We're built different, but society is trying to replace men with a weak version that never rebels. And on the flip side, make women super masculine to try to be independent, growing them into the new economic power base that votes. Not only votes, but does as they're told. Follows the herd mentality. If a headline says this, they all agree. Must be true. No critical thinking. Very little of it. This is why corporations love women. This is why people who make products, producers, love selling to women. Even women in relationships with men control the household spending. They're easy to market and sell to. All you need is somebody that's emotional and you can sell them a hope and a dream. This is what the psychologists figured out, the pencil necks, all those focus groups, that multi-million-dollar companies, they figured this out, that if you can control the woman, you control the man. If you can get her to want something, the man will just get it for her. Now they just...
Exactly. This is the reason why most of these advertisements and whatnot, they pander to mostly women. They pander to women more than they pander to men. In fact, one content creator already exposes the fact that, how can I explain this? Do y'all know that women's clothing is a lot cheaper than men's clothing? But these are the same ones who want to cry about equality. If a man gets in trouble, they give him the fullest amount of stint. But when a woman gets in trouble, her punishment gets reducted. This is the reason why most women can get away with a lot of shit more than the men. I mean, straight up. But let's continue on.
Move the equation forward. Let's just cut the man out completely. Let women make every freaking penny, and we'll get them to spend every single penny they earn. And we're going to control them with social media. We're going to destroy their brains with all the endless attention, the dating apps, the narratives of being a strong boss babe, Sex in the City, hypersexualization, my body, my choice, all this. If I sleep around, I'm empowered. Literally teaching them to devalue themselves in every way imaginable, not respecting their bodies, not respecting themselves, thinking they can use men for sex the way men could use a woman, and it doesn't work the same. A man can walk away.
Yep, and they wonder why they're in these fucked up situations. Oh, these women want to be like the men. However, there's a disconnect. These women can never be like the men. Why? Because think about it. If a woman goes around, sleeps with many different men, and then when she's finally ready to settle, her ass is never satisfied. This is the reason why these females get in their feelings every time a dude questions their body count. Yes, they get in their feelings. They get defensive. They get combative. But the reason why a woman's body count matters is because even if she decides to settle down after fucking so many dudes, when she settled down with that one dude, guess what? Because that she's been a pass around to many, she will not be satisfied in that relationship with that one dude. And this is why this is one of the main reasons why most women cheat. But let's continue.
You get pregnant, you have 9 months, a baby, it changes your life forever. Not only that, but nature deems it so. Sperm is cheap, eggs are expensive. You get to choose who has sex as a woman. Imagine giving away the power of being able to get a man to do anything. It used to be you had to get a ring to have sex. Now it's been reduced to hookah and chill. And then people don't even question this anymore. If you read comments on Instagram of somebody even calling out traditional values or telling women how valuable they truly are, how much power they really have in the dating game, if they just keep their legs closed, automatically you're a misogynist, you're a pick-me, you're setting women back. They actively are brainwashed against their own interest. And the people at the top just rub their hands together like this, just seize the dollar signs nonstop. And the idiocy continues. Very few people question this. Is this really what I should be doing with my life? Should I really not be looking for a man? Should I, as a man, really just walk away from it all? What happened to legacy? What happened to family? What happened to raising kids?
All of that been thrown out the window. They don't even care about the shit anymore. The only thing they care about is materialistic shit. But when they get old, they finally feel the cold. But by then, it's already too late. They already used up, been ran the train on, have 3 to 6 kids later, and then expecting a man what they saw to settle for them, then getting their feelings when those same men that they thought was gonna settle for them decided to choose something better. I mean, exactly as it goes. But let's continue.
Into a nuclear household. We know all the statistics. People are on more drugs today. Mental illness is at a sky high. Addiction and overdoses, crazy. People are not meant.
And they don't even care. In fact, they care more whether or not a female is going through the shit more than the men. And because they don't give two shits about if a man has mental issues or drug addictions or they're suicidal, they don't even bat an eye to it. And oftentimes they don't care all the way to the point to where it's too late. This is the reason why these mass shootings be happening. This is the reason why you have murder-suicides, just like the recent one. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but let's continue.
To be alone and isolated. Yeah, this is what we're churning out. These are the results. The results speak for themselves. Our society is sick, so the direction we're headed in is only going to make us sicker, but nobody questioned this. Instead, you'll get online, and it'll be some woman telling you how men ain't shit, and it'll be some dude talking about if she breathes, she's a hoe, and all this stuff, and it's like back and forth, nonstop, playing on people's emotions, no solutions. And this is why this kind of content is even allowed online, to be honest, because if it was making a difference, if people were coalition builders in a sense, bringing two sides together, that's when the system turns on you, because that's a problem. As long as you're divisive, as long as you keep causing the very division they're wanting, you get airtime. It's not an issue.
Are you under $27,000 income a year?
Men are no longer men. Quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country.
Honestly, the coronavirus isn't killing men fast enough.
This is unacceptable. Hashtag men's rights. Hashtag
men's rights to go to war and die.
I can't even say it. Men.
At the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m., which I feel would make women a lot safer.
And they laughed at her old ass and told her to go fuck herself in her curfew on men bill, and rightfully so. Let's continue.
And discrimination of all kinds would be lessened.
We have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them to the right.
Shut up, Don Lemon. And it's ain't it funny too. They want to label the manosphere, red pill, MGTOW as racist, but look who's also being racist at the same time. But then again, I'm happy Don Lemon got fired. No one doesn't give a fuck what he has to say. Let's continue.
Society has told men to fuck off, and many have, turning in a state of demoralization to various forms of escapism instead of meaningful pursuits. The checkout is quite alarming and can be seen everywhere, most notably of late in the data emerging from the Pew Research Center.
Nearly half of all young adults are single, 34% of women, and a whopping 63% of men.
Wow, 30% of men haven't had sex in the last year. 50% of men say that they are not looking for a relationship.
When they say, oh, I'm looking...
It's probably higher now. Post-pandemic, that's probably 40% of men, and 70% are not looking for a relationship. Those numbers have risen dramatically post-pandemic. Our world...
And he ain't lying either. Ain't it funny? CNN been making hit piece after hit piece after hit piece, shaming and demonizing men just to turn right back around and then make another hit piece talking about why a large percentage of younger men remain single. They ain't looking for relationships. Gee, CNN, I wonder why too. We all wonder why. Oh, it can't be because, I don't know. Y'all, both yours and all these bias outlets campaigns against men. And y'all wonder why the shit is the way it is nowadays. The younger generation ain't even think about relationships, while the younger men of the generation don't want to have kids during their young period. I wonder where all that came from. But let's continue.
The world has completely changed.
For a relationship, do they mean I'm not looking for a woman or I'm not looking for commitment?
And not actively pursuing any kind of interaction with women.
Oh, shit.
Societal factors say it's not a problem. Technology anesthetizes your brain better than ever before. Economically, you likely don't have a chance in hell at buying a house or vastly outpacing any female in the workplace based on your average wages. Why bother? Just do drugs, play games.
This rapid retreat of testosterone-laden young men feels more like the premise of an eerie science fiction story than life itself. But here we are, with evidence to disprove the belief conservative men held in the 1970s that the emancipation of women would eventually lead to a Mad Max-style apocalypse where men would tear down society in response to the pain of their displacement. In reality, the opposite has happened.
As opposed to us going out with a bang, we're going out with a fizzle. And the sort of rhetoric that I hear online from men is a lot less, I'm going to go out and do something about this. It is a lot more, I'm going to retreat into me, just hold on tight, boys, the sex robots are coming soon. These are non-ironic comments that I see on the internet.
Men are lost like never before, and few seem to care, as society is increasingly captured by an ideology that doesn't have their best interests at heart.
And again, how is all this possible? Okay then.
I started off thinking that this was an oversight. I thought that this is because people have overlooked something. And then I realized, no, they haven't overlooked anything. This is intentional. They intend this. This is a constructed part of our culture to demonize men and to banish men and to make men obsolescent.
Lady Ballers is here.
Hi.
Before the 1960s, no confusion existed about who men were and what they were wired to do in society.
Men are wired to provide, protect, defend, and care for women and children.
And the thing that most men did for virtually all of human history was get married, have kids, protect and defend your wife and kids. That was the role, and you were trained to do this from the time that you were a small kid.
But with the sexual revolution of the 1960s and the later expansion of the welfare state, man's place in the world, defined by hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary history as protector and provider, was sharply interrupted. no longer.
Straight up. These, these dirty motherfuckers knew exactly what the fuck they were doing. And again, they wonder why things are the way they are in these days and times. But let's continue.
So essential to women and children, and devoid of an inbuilt social role, men were forced to grapple with the meaning of manhood.
Large numbers of men were feeling a need for a map and guidance for how to be a man in a new world.
But an inspiring vision for men's role in the new world never arrived. Instead, an insidious war on men was initiated after radical intellectuals invaded the education system in the 1960s and 70s.
And this is the reason why colleges and universities are so fucked up to this very day. This is the reason why you got all this woke ideology, virtue signaling bullshit that's in the colleges. Now, when I was going to college, it was at a minimum. Thank God I graduated before all that shit happened. But man, y'all can't tell me this shit wasn't planned way ahead, way back when. But let's continue.
A lot of radicals that came out of the late 60s, 70s went into the universities. It was the one institution that you could take your radical politics and find a home there. They were more radical than the liberal professors who hired them. As the older scholars retired and the young radicals gained a foothold in many departments, I mean, certainly women's studies, they were always there. But even in political science departments, history departments, certainly English departments, they would start hiring their own. And if you came in and appeared to be conservative or even moderate, you wouldn't get hired. So we have a lot of teachers who are trained in left orthodoxy going in.
I told you this is only going to get worse. So imagine this process playing out in the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So look at all the TikTok kids we have today, all the bull rings, the face tats, the radical leftist ideology that they're all spewing. Imagine those people are going to one day be this teacher right here lecturing the next generation. It's going to happen. So the message is hardening. It's not softening. People have this misunderstanding that we're going to see a reversal somehow as the system accelerates and crashes. We're nowhere near the acceleration phase of the decline. It's only once the TikTokers of today, the most mentally unstable, you see them like rainbow colored hair, all that in the neon light room, I identify as this, that. When those people come into power, when they start filling these positions, when they get to make policy decisions, that's when the hard radical leftist ideas will crystallize throughout all society and the decline will begin to accelerate. As of right now, it has not happened yet. This is only going to get worse. You have a small window to get your affairs in order and leave. There's no turning this around. There's no red wave. There's no conservatism that's going to happen. This is entrenched. This is the new way of life. We're actually, as the United States, bullying other countries into accepting this ideology, or we cut off funding. And you think you have rights in the United States? By the way, you don't. There was a guy that made memes. You need to Google this. I can't obviously get into it on this platform too much. He got sent to prison, convicted for making memes about Hillary Clinton. The United States is about to vote on a new legislation that gives them power to micromanage the internet. Literally every piece of it. You won't see it covered anywhere. Nobody's
straight up. And they wonder why people is now looking at the U.S. as a communist country. No different than China, no different than North Korea, no different than Russia, no different from Cuba. And to think they believe that American citizens are so dumb on that matter. Yes, America is about to turn communistic, but let's continue.
Talking about it. We're distracted with Russia, Ukraine, and we're distracted with Israel, Hamas. And you're not seeing the power plays being done right under your nose as all this stuff is going around. None of this is an accident. This is all planned. You notice rich people live in gated communities with guards far away from you. Do you notice that the only time your paths may cross is on the highway as you commute to and from work? We live in a two-tier society. We really do. There's the rich and there's everybody else. And it's never been this bad. Coming from me living in Phoenix, Arizona, it blows my mind to see that over a little hill is complete destitute trailer parks, crime, graffiti, trash, failing infrastructure, closed buildings everywhere. And over on the other side of a little hill is a perfectly watered, green grass, golf course with houses and gated communities and people golfing. It's one hill over. One hill over. It's not on the whole other side of town. It's a little hill you can hike over. That's all that separates our society in America. It's an illusion. Worse yet, I remember driving around in Phoenix. There's a community of trailer parks. Blew me away. These places were at the time like 30,000, 40,000. I mean, absolute poverty. And if you know anything about the Southwest of the United States, they have canyons, they have mountains, they have a whole bunch of peaks in the desert. Well, in Phoenix, there's this one kind of outcrop of rocks that forms this little hill/mountain. And on the top, you see mansions worth $5 million, $10 million, infinity pools with water flowing. And at the bottom in the valley, it's not that far away. You can perfectly see this guy's house on the cliff. At the bottom is trailer parks with people driving cars that are like 30, 40 years old. Rinky-dink mobile homes that look like some people's closets. Nothing but the poors. And the poors have the luxury of looking up at that little cliff in front of them and seeing all the multi-million-dollar mansions lined up. How sick is that? That was one of the sickest things I've ever seen, dude. You can drive down this destitute road.
Trust me, they have it out here in Colorado too. I know. But I'm gonna fast forward to the next part.
Our junior high schools and high schools. So you have had a transformation of the educational system.
Despite the introduction of the Equal Pay Act of 1963, the loosening of divorce and abortion laws, and the fact that more women than men have been admitted into undergraduate programs since 1982, the radicals within the education system insisted that women remain hostage to a patriarchy constructed to oppress them personally and politically.
What I have against politics as it exists is the male supremacy built into it.
Was there male supremacy in the 1980s in England when Mrs. Thatcher was Prime Minister?
Yes.
You're making a case that there is male supremacy when 53, 54% of the votes are female.
Yes.
Are those 53 or 50?
And even to this day, I still look at that as the biggest contradiction ever. Because if the patriarchy was really oppressing women, then how come during that same time period, women played major roles in a whole lot of shit, even in politics? But somehow the patriarchy is oppressing them. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Let's continue.
4% of the electorate who vote where they just don't quite get it?
Voting doesn't determine social power. I mean, there's a million other ways. You can vote any way you want and still get raped. For the most part, men are treating women unequally and are benefiting from it.
So long as bad men existed and the patriarchy remained intact, a revolution was an urgent necessity, they said. So as revolutionary movements often do, they targeted children, the boys who threatened to grow into oppressive patriarchs.
This is not because
You notice what they're doing now in the next step of this plan with the identity stuff? Who are they targeting? They're just rinse and repeating the strategy. Now with the new idea that divides us into 1,000 little boxes based on how you feel.
As teachers and education theorists and feminists dislike boys, they sincerely believe that something is seriously wrong with young men in America. And a growing number of experts now claim that the nation's boys as a group are disturbed, depressed, too undomesticated, too competitive, far too violent, and for that reason, in need of being re-socialized in the direction of femininity. This movement that Harvard University, led by Carol Gilligan, William Pollack, gender equity experts in various departments of education. This is not about helping boys academically. This is a movement, as they say, to sort of rescue boys from their maleness.
The scheme to re-socialize boys and generate the most female-friendly environments possible must account in part for the fact that boys are universally failing at every level of the school system.
If it's happening everywhere and every level, it's not the kid, right? It's not Chris's problem in secondary school in a particular education system, or my son's problem in the US K-12. It's a structural problem with the education system that's just not male-friendly enough.
It's the same story at colleges and universities, where the mission to rescue boys from their oppressive maleness continues.
Can you imagine being a young man on campus today?
Oppressive maleness. Let that sink in. Oh, men are being oppressed by their own maleness. I wonder who coined that term, but let's continue.
Taught their masculinity is a pathology in need of a cure. They're monitored, they're policed, and demonized.
And neutered. Everything's been stripped off of them. They've been made to feel ashamed of anything virile. They have nothing to identify with.
This is precisely why.
Fellas, if y'all want to know what created the incel, yes, I'll say it again. If y'all want to know what created the incels, this is where you start your research. But let's continue.
So many young men were so hungry for a message like Jordan Peterson's when he rose to fame in 2016. Speaking about the appeal of his message, Peterson said,
"There are just a lot of people, I would say, who are sick and tired of having their desire to move forward in the world and to achieve something and to take their place as adult males, let's say, who are under the weight of accusations that their ambition and forthrightness is a manifestation of something that's fundamentally tyrannical. It's not doing anyone any good, and it's also not true. It's really a terrible thing to do to young men. That's why they're bailing out of universities like mad. It's an unhospitable place, and it's unhospitable precisely because of this doctrine. It said that throughout history, the fundamental relationship between men and women was one of power, essentially slavery. It's like, fine, believe it if you want.
It is true, as Peterson says, the men are now rapidly bailing out of the universities.
There's like a 60-40 divide in schools right now, where women are 60% of the new graduates. That's unbelievably tipped on the other side of where it was before.
The trend worsened during the pandemic. College enrollment as a whole declined in 2020, but that decline was 7 times greater for male than for female students. Fucking wild.
And you think, well, what's the problem with that? Well, when it was 40-60 female to male, we decided to do something about it with Title IX and affirmative action, and we leveled up women. Now that it's 40-60, or you could even argue 33-66 in terms of graduation because men drop out, the question is, well, are we concerned now?
I had a school administrator email me one time. Nope. He's like, the idea that you could even reach that topic and have that conversation, like maybe we need like affirmative action for men in schools, or maybe we need to start looking at that. That's like an inconceivable conversation. You can never even begin to have it.
Because the moment you're seen as quote unquote pro young man, the natural assumption is that means you're anti-women.
It's a zero-sum game for the education system, which sends its students.
What? That's exactly what they think. Just because you're a pro-man, that automatically means that you're anti-woman or you hate women. And yes, us MGTOWs deal with that bullshit a lot. But let's continue.
Students out into the world, primed to impact influential industries with the kind of anti-male propaganda they've been sold in schools. We see evidence of this in the journalism of outlets like the New York Times and the advertisements of companies like Gillette that promote messages of toxic masculinity. We see it in.
And the ironic thing is and the ironic thing was the person behind that woke virtue signaling pro-feminist Gillette ad was a feminist. Boy, she got outed. She got outed because of that shit. But let's continue.
Reports of psychological associations advising clinicians to watch out for so-called negative masculine ideals, such as...
Yeah, and considering schools are so aggressive at re-socializing and reprogramming young men, I think if you're a father in America today, you need to take a good hard look at public education in your son. I see homeschooling absolutely becoming far more popular than it's ever been, simply because how much of a failure public institutions are. I mean, the graduation rates, the competency rates versus their international peers is absolutely abysmal. Our kids are getting outcompeted. Instead of focusing on things like STEM, we focus on gender ideology. and social justice warrior issues. Meanwhile, kids, the international ones, are doubling down on science, technology, math, etc., engineering, you name it. And they're taking all the jobs. And they're ready for the world. And they speak multiple languages. And they're in highly competitive environments. Meanwhile, our kids here are just complaining about the system, the patriarchy, who's the victim, who's got the most brownie points for victimhood. And those are going to be our future leaders of the world. So yeah, if I were a prospective father, man, I would do everything in my power for homeschooling, honestly, because
I do agree with that. Especially when they trying to shove their woke bullshit down our children's throats. Even both my sons coming back like they ain't teaching us shit. Only thing they want us to learn about is the alphabet group and transgendering, all that other type of shit. My sons have no interest in that shit at all, but that's what they try to shove down our children's throats. But let's continue.
nothing worse than busting your ass at work, doing your damn best to provide for your family and watching your seed be corrupted every single day they go to school. Every single day. You're watering your seed, and then someone comes and scoops away some of the dirt. They implant toxicity in their head. They make them feel like a victim or a predator or less than. Punish them for being inquisitive, for having an imagination, or being competitive, or whatever it is that young boys love to do, right? It's all demonized. So it's watching your seed whittle down day by day. It's toxic, man. The most important thing you can instill in a child's mind is the way they think, their patterns of thought, their self-talk to themselves. That's the most important thing you instill in a young boy. The basic foundation of how his little voice in his head will talk to him throughout his entire life. If he gets to download programming that's extremely negative, that tells him he's evil, he's not worth it, he's a predator, he's incompetent, he's a broken version of a girl, women are superior, all these ideologies that get drilled into his head, if that's his base layer programming of how he thinks when he has an idea or when he attempts a new goal or he runs into issues, roadblocks, and now he's battling the little man in his head, his base layer programming on how to move forward through all these obstacles, he's going to fail horrendously. He may not even get started. He may just end up retreating, as we see most men with this base layer of programming they have. They retreat into their rooms. They play video games all day. They watch porn all day. They consume drugs all day. They eat fast food. They cope with food all day. It's feel good now so I can mask the pain later. That my life is mediocre, that I have no meaning, that there's no purpose for me. I have no path forward. I was raised in a household with no father. I don't know what it means to be a man. I don't have the tools to deal with my problems. I was never taught how to manage my emotions. Boom, I'm going to explode one day on society. There goes another headline with public tragedies. Wow, who could have seen that coming? Men are so evil. We need to fix boys. They're broken. They're perpetuating massive tragedies of the public nature. It's all boys' fault. But all the stuff I've listed before, nobody talks about. Nobody mentions. It's only the end result. That's it. They look at what happened, who did it. They never ask why. How did this person grow up? What was society like around them? Family life, friend circle, atmosphere in school, nothing. It's just, oh, that was a boy. Oh, he did this mass shooting. Oh, it's all boys' fault. It's all
facts. And they wonder why this shit happens. You keep demonizing boys. You keep demonizing them from boys to men. What do you think is going to happen? Shit like this will happen. It gets down to a point to where everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has a breaking point, a boiling point. And when a tragedy happens, now all of a sudden they want to blame the men and all this type of stuff. Even though there are women that also do that same shit too, they mainly focus on the men. It's just like what I said about the Joker movie. You keep pushing people, sooner or later they're gonna go over the edge. And once they go over the edge, there's no turning back. This is the reason why you have mass shootings taking place. Because society failed these men and young boys. No outreach. No one dared to help them out during their tough times. And this is why MGTOW exists. But they trying to demonize MGTOW. They trying to demonize all male groups. But now they're afraid. Now their asses are afraid because now you got male spaces such as MGTOW, Red Pill, the Manosphere is now growing even larger in size, all the way to a point to where now it's now universal, and everybody in the West is now afraid. Yes, they are afraid that this type of shit will happen. Well, what was the root cause of it? Can they explain that? No, they can't. But nevertheless, I'm going to stop it right here. If y'all want the full link to the Legion of Men video, the link will be in the description box. Go check them out. Tell them JD Mouse sent you. But that's all I'm going to do tonight. I'm done and I'm out this bitch. Later.